Get fired up on the WFO line.
WFO, Joe.
954-889-6796.
It's been an absolute joy to be a drag racing fan.
Go wide open, and your call may be used on the show.
Or preface by saying I'm not a Kurt Busch fan or apologist. I don't know where Greg Anderson's ego has gone, but I know one person that's going to be a big-time villain in pro stock.
That's 954-889-6796. That phone line is always WFO.
We will now go ahead and begin our post-race media availabilities with our race-winning owner, Rick Hendrick. Thank you for joining us, Rick.
Oh, good to be here.
Can you tell us what this win means to your organization?
Well, every win's important, and, this sport's extremely competitive, and really proud of Chase leading that many laps, and it's always good to get a win and builds momentum. So I think all our cars ran pretty good today. So looking forward to the rest of the races.
And we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. Please raise your hand if you have one, and we'll get a mic over to you. We'll start down here with Bob.
Bob Hockers, Fox Sports. I have two for you. The first is, where do you see Chase as a championship contender with all the wins and his variety of wins this year?
I think Chase has shown that he can win at any track, and he's really good with equipment, doesn't tear up anything. I think if we can get the car good enough for Chase, he can win a championship, and he can win it this year. So we just have to keep tuning on the car and giving him good stuff like they did today. And he's just so smooth, so good. Reminds me a lot of his dad. Knows when to race. Doesn't wreck a car, but he can be aggressive when he needs to. So I think Chase is going to be a contender for a lot of years to come.
And you talked about your other cars. I was curious what you thought of William Byron today. He's in the middle of a points battle to make it, and did some retaliation. Where do you kind of stand on what he did, and maybe having to stick up for yourself at times versus potentially hurting your race?
Well, I think you have to stand your ground in this sport, and if you let people push you around, they're going to push you around. And he's running up front. I think he was his front row start, and he's learning. And people don't cut him any slack because he's a rookie, and he's let them know he'll come back. So I think probably in hindsight he would have not messed with Kyle, and had a really good finish with a good car.
Any additional questions? Down here,
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Rick, it looked like William hit the 18 because Jack Mouse told him to. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I didn't know that, though. Someone told me that. I think, it goes down like back to what I said. I think if you let the guys push you around and, you let them know that you're not going to let that happen. And I think he got the worst end of the deal with Kyle's brake check. He was not the front end out of the car. But, sometimes in the heat of the battle, you want to do things, and if you thought about it a little bit more, maybe you just settle down and go finish the race. But in the heat of battle, and I didn't know Chad told him to, but if I'd had a radio, I'd probably tell him the same thing.
And it's the first time I think we can get your thoughts on the 48 crew chief change. I'm sure you monitored how Cliff and Jimmy did today. Your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I think Jimmy was in a really good spot there, and Cliff's super smart. And the deal there is they have a chemistry together. And when Cliff came back on the road with Jimmy, you could see it made a difference 6 or 7 races ago. So the communication, knowing what Jimmy likes, Jimmy's lead engineer. So I think it gave Jimmy some comfort. Kevin's one of the smartest guys in the garage, but you can't replace time and years together. And I think that's the call Jimmy wanted, and so I think it's going to work out. Cliff's a sharp young guy.
Murray Sakala, 89.1 The Point. Mr. Hendrick, first off, congratulations on the win. What's it like seeing Chase have a dominant race like this? Because I believe this is the first time he has swept all three stages en route to a win this year.
That's I was trying to remember watching any car do that, with pitting and having to come back out. It was an amazing run to be able to come back to the front and hold off Martin. He couldn't make a mistake all day. He had a great car last year, great car this year, and he's a heck of a road racer. He's just getting better. Anytime you can lead all the laps in a race and end up winning, that's kind of like whipped cream in a cherry. You don't get to do that very often. I can't, in all my 35 years, I don't think there's been many of those.
Are there any final questions for Mr. Hendrick? All right, we'll let you go ahead and head out. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
And we are now joined by our race-winning crew chief, Alan Gustafson. Thanks for joining us, Alan.
Thanks for having me.
We'll go ahead and open it up for questions. Please raise your hand and we'll get a mic over to you. Down here to Bob. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Dave Sully, Area Auto Racing News. Alan, how long did you hold your breath in the last 35 laps? Was there any point at which you were concerned, especially when he reported the left rear might be going down?
Yeah, I think the left rear damage was probably the biggest concern that I had through the whole experience. It was pretty significant damage, and it did look like it was, kind of protruding through the sidewall and grooving the sidewall of the tire. So that's a tough one for sure. Some concern over that. And then, I knew lap traffic was going to be a bit dodgy, and sure enough, we caught, I don't know who it was, but they're too wide down the straightaway into 10 there. So that got a bit dodgy. But, yeah, I mean, there's nothing you can do. There's no reason to hold your breath or panic about it. I mean, we had done the best job we could all weekend long and put ourselves in position. And certainly Martin's extremely good road racer and has a really good car and was really fast. So I knew Chase is up to Chase, and Chase was going to have to run a perfect race at that point in time, and he did. So fortunately for us, we got the win.
Come down here to Bob.
Bob Hawkers, Fox Sports. Chase said that, after the contact, he was pretty worried, and it felt soft, the tire did. I mean, when you hear that, are you like, oh, it's definitely down, or do drivers often kind of, I don't want to say imagine things, but are quick to worry when you've led the whole race?
Yeah, certainly. That's, not only drivers, but anybody in that circumstance, when you've led the whole race and you had some pretty hard contact, you're going to be hypersensitive to any little slide or any little thing on that left rear tire. So I wasn't surprised that he had felt it was going soft. Lap times were still good, and fortunately for me, Martin had an in-car camera so I could watch. No significant smoke, and you could actually see it on some of the shots, exiting the corner, the way the light would hit, and it looked like it was up, but certainly was concerned for a slow leak. But yeah, I think in that situation, you're going to be really hypersensitive to that corner, and certainly I'm sure he was.
Come down here to Lee.
Lee Spencer, RacingBoys.com. Alan, despite him winning here last year, at what point did you know you had a good little road course racer on your hands? Because, guys who grew up on short tracks, it'd be one thing if he was like Hendrick and he ran sports cars and the like, but it just seemed to click so naturally for him. And it to us at least, it was kind of unexpected. When did you first, see that?
We tested here in 2016, I think, if I remember correctly. But there was a test, and we were here. And we started out kind of average. And as we ran, he got better, and we improved the car, he got better. And really at the end of that test, we had speeds that could win the race. And unfortunately for us, when we came back, we had some braking issues and just couldn't consistently carry that pace. But I think that was the first time that I saw, he's extremely confident on a road course. And And the other thing to me that was a pretty big indicator, we weren't very good at Sonoma our first time, which I'm not surprised. To me, that's probably the toughest track we raced. But the second time we came back, he was really good. He just needed an opportunity to run that race, and we came back the second time and were really, really competitive. So I knew right away that he's really talented when it comes to road courses. I think this track, everybody has. Even Lewis Hamilton has tracks that suit him better than others, right? And Chase is no different. And this track certainly suits Chase a little bit better than the other two, but I think he can win at the other road courses too. Thank you.
Go right here.
Mari Sakala, 89.1 the point. Alan, first off, congratulations on the win. Were the nerves more, less, or the same compared to last year? Because last year you're worried about fuel mileage, and then this year you're concerned about a flat tire.
Yeah, less. I mean, you don't want to say less because you're not demeaning, the pressure. But last year, fuel mileage is something that I'm, strategizing for and calculating for and responsible for. So yeah, that was a bit tougher for me, and that's as hard as we try to predict that, and as much work it goes into it, it's not an exact science. So regardless of what goes on, you always know there's a little bit of a fudge factor in there for your fuel mileage. So last year was tough because you just didn't know. I mean, I think it was evidenced by Martin running out last year right behind us. So it was just close for everybody last year, and we were able to make it. And this year, that we knew we had a little bit of a pad there, so a little less nerve-wracking because of the fuel situation.
We'll come down here to Nate, and then in the back to Jim.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Alan, on the final restart, it seemed like there was contact, obviously, past the finish line. Did it appear to you like Truex was trying to side draft Chase? And I guess I'll let you answer that first now.
Yeah, I don't have a good angle at it. I wasn't watching the TV feed. I was watching right in front of me and being in pit stall one. I couldn't, I'm basically looking dead beside him. Actually, the restart before they had touch too. I kind of took it as Chase was, wanting to open up his entry to the corner as much as he could, and Martin was not wanting to let him open up his entry into the corner as much as he could, and they got together, fairly significantly. So that's all. I don't have a great view. I'm really curious to go back and look at it. But yeah, I think they both knew that was probably going to be it.
Just generally, did it seem like aero was more of a factor? I mean, we've heard that like on short tracks this year, and Sonoma, it seemed like there was less passing. Was aero more of a factor with this package here this year, you think? Or?
Yeah, it's anytime yes, I think it's the turbulence is a little bit worse, and it's a tough thing because if you have enough downforce that you're kind of have an abundance of grip and you can run flat through the corners, then that would make closer racing. And then if you have more downforce but you still don't go flat, I think it kind of separates it. And there's some corners here that it probably made the racing a bit closer, but I think some corners it makes it a bit more difficult to pass. To be honest with you, I thought it was going to be tougher than it was after the race. There's a lot of guys that jumped us on that lap 17 before the stage, and we were a bit further back than I had inspected and wanted to be, so I was concerned there, and he drove right past him. So, you certainly could pass, but when it comes to cars, on the fastest cars like our car and the 19 or the 11, the 18, one of those cars out front probably wasn't going to get past unless they made a mistake.
We'll go back to Jim.
JimOtterMotorsport.com. Alan, you guys have had a couple tough weeks the last several weeks.
6 or 7, right? Something like that. Yeah.
I know it's a road course, not necessarily reflective of a lot you'll see going forward, but getting the win and showing again that you guys, what you're capable of at a good time getting as you approach the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably the biggest takeaway for me from the weekend is just for as difficult as times, and I don't really feel like our performance has been, our speed's been terrible. I mean, Kentucky we were terrible, but that's no surprise. It's just not a good track for me or really for Chase. But our speed's been decent. We just have not executed the races from mechanicals or crashes or different issues. So that's the biggest thing I wanted to do this weekend is perform to the potential of the team and the car and get back on track. And certainly we did that in style, which is fantastic. But yeah, we needed to get out of that rut and to get back on track and get focused on competing and improving and get some confidence back. So it couldn't have come at a better time. And certainly, these things come and go. It happens to everybody, I think. And you can use those last weeks that we had to kind of reflect on what we can do better and improve. And I feel like we've done that. So all in all, it certainly hurt us in the points, but I think it's probably going to make our team a bit stronger.
Are there any final questions for Alan? Go to the back to Chris.
Yeah, Chris, catchfence.com. Alan, I'm just curious how you approach Michigan next week.
Yeah.
How you feel about going to Michigan, too?
Yeah, Michigan's interesting. It's, going there in the spring with the new package, I was a bit unsure. I think everybody was a bit unsure. How trimmed out do you want to race your cars? It's obviously a really big track, largest corner radius in the series. So we didn't know, and I think we went. Although we had a good car and had a part failure, but we went probably not trimmed out enough. And the 22 obviously did a great job, and they qualified on the pole and kind of dominated that race. So we're excited to go back and give that another shot. I think we've learned from the spring for sure, and look forward to applying those things and going back and having a bit more speed in our Napa Chevy and continue to win there at Michigan.
Any last questions? All right.
Cool.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Alan. Congratulations.
This is WFO Radio.